We are smack dab in the middle of the NFL offseason. All right. We can look ahead to the draft. We can look back at free agency. We can look side to side at different moves that we can make right now. So we're bringing in one of the big wigs, a big dog. Right? We are bringing in somebody to make sense of it all. We're talking about somebody from Fox Sports to give us the deets in the inside we need. Come on now. We are live. It is Boy Green meets Wudi.
Can you guys help us get a jet chant here? Yeah, going.
Oh.
Okay, yeah. Come on in.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go!
J-E-T-S, jet, let's go! J-E-T-S, jet, let's go! There you go, Wudi!
Third Party Thursday.
Chris joining us here on the program with a capital P here on the program.
Jake Asman, come on down. How you doing, good sir?
Wow, what an intro. I mean, Boy Green is known for having the intro, but Wudi, that was unreal, man. Thanks for the kind words, son.
We are men of many names.
My favorite Austrian Jets fan right there, baby.
Boy Green
Meets Wudi. Welcome to another episode of Boy Green Meets Wudi. It is your boy James Wudi, and you already know we are Wudi, rocking everywhere. My guy right here, the man doing the wave right there, he is none other than the boy who became king. Let's talk about it. Hey, come on now, none other than Mr. Paul Esden Jr. in the building. Appreciate all the love in the comments. Both YouTube channels already popping off. We haven't even finished the intros. Both YouTube channels popping off. Instagram at The James Wudi. We already got some people in here. Appreciate y'all. And here's the thing. We got a special guest. A special treat for you guys. Okay, this is somebody. He's actually been on the show before. But see, back then, right? I said, this is an ascending reporter, ascending man. Hey, yeah, like that arrow's up. Yeah, my man ascending. All right. Back then, he was covering the AFC East. Right. Before that, he was covering the Patriots. Now, my man, big dog, he covered all 32. All right. This man, you've seen his work. I can guarantee it because I've seen it. I've seen the list that come out on social media, Henry McKenna's list, all these different things that are coming out, the articles, the content. This man is an information machine, and we've come to plug ourselves into that info. Let's get it. None other than Fox Sports reporter Henry McKenna. Come on down. How you doing, my good sir?
What's up, guys? Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here as always. Let's dig in. Let's do this.
So with that being said, Henry, good afternoon. Glad to have you, and good Lord have mercy. It might be easier to list the things that you don't do than the things you do because it's just overflowing, obviously. But we want to pick your brain, of course, about the NYJ, the New York Jets, and they've spent a lot of money, but not in the ways that most Jets teams have the last couple of years, where there's a big splash. They make these headline-grabbing moves. It's not necessarily that this offseason, it's a more quantity over quality approach. They didn't reset the market with any of these free agent additions, but they got a bulk of them, and they needed it coming off a 3-14 season. What's been sort of your eye in the sky here on this new Aaron Glenn 2.0? Or maybe 3.0 if we count the 1994 first-round draft choice playing career of one Aaron Glenn. I'm running out of the .0s. But either way, how do you feel about what the Jets have done so far, Henry McKenna?
Feels a bit like they're trying to get back on schedule with their rebuild. Last year was clearly a situation where they fell behind what they probably wanted to do in terms of the rebuild. We saw them sell, obviously. You guys, I'm sure, have talked those big deals around a great deal. And now these contracts that we see coming in over free agency, they feel like, okay, they smell a little bit of desperation. I'm not going to lie, to some degree, in that I think you bring in some older veterans, you maybe overpay a little bit for some of them on a roster that needs to get younger. You see some situational role players slotting into a defense that has a lot of vacancies. So I do like the usage that a lot of these guys are going to get. I don't know necessarily whether a lot of these free agency additions are necessarily long-term solutions to their problems. And so if you're a team that has 1 million first-round picks, don't you want to be creating space for young guys to get on the field and develop, creating opportunities for that and hitting on some of the younger free agents in that free agency window who can grow alongside a lot of those younger rookies or guys on rookie contracts. But you know what? They're a team that needs to win more football games. That's for sure. And if Aaron Glenn is going to start doing more damage in free agency with premium players, the reputation around the New York Jets needs to start turning around. And so, again, I'm not going to back off the thought that maybe some of these moves were a little desperate, but I will say I see why there wasn't a level of desperation, which is that this is those rookies will come in and probably contribute, and they won't have to contribute in enormous ways. But if you look at what happened when the Patriots fired Gerard Mayo after year one, the reason that they sort of did it, I think, was because they were viewing Drake May as this premium player, and they didn't see a clear-cut path under Mayo to get better quickly. So the Patriots fire Mayo, they bring in Mike Vrabel. Mike Vrabel does sort of his work, bringing in the Vrabel guys, and that turned the organization around about as rapidly as we could have imagined. Obviously, keeping Aaron Glenn, which I believe was the right decision, give that guy a second year, but his reputation is hurting right now, and I don't think that they have a lot of clout on the free agency market. So everything needs to shift. The culture needs to change. The reputation league-wide needs to change. So I understand you got to go out and they got maybe 6 new starters on defense for now, maybe 5. And so maybe fewer than that. I don't know. But it ultimately, we'll see. We'll see how this all pans out, how this big accumulation of acquisitions and funds fits in post-draft.
Love it. I love the raw honesty. We need it. That's what we need. The truth, Henry. The truth is going to set us free. And I'm so happy that you brought up the Patriots rebuild. Not because I love the rebuild. I absolutely hate it. It disgusts me. But the Bills, we were in a similar situation back in 2018, right? We needed a quarterback. They got a quarterback. They got Josh Allen. We ruined Sam Darnold, and the Bills have been running atop the AFC East pretty much that whole time. Then we fast forward the Patriots. We're laughing at them. We beat them Thursday Night Football. Now they got Vrabel. They just literally went to the Super Bowl. The Dolphins, they seem to be rebuilding right now as well. They just traded Jalen Waddle. They're kind of selling, right? Minka Fitzpatrick, is now a Jet. What do you see that's happening there? Are we about to get leapfrogged by the last team in the AFC East in terms of a rebuild? Are they about to jump in front of us? Steal Arch Manning or whoever is that prized possession at the top of the board? And are we just the worst?
Gosh, yeah. The worst at rebuilding and the worst at AFC Easting. It would be sad. I hadn't actually thought that far ahead in terms of what it could look like if the Dolphins are aggressively garbage this year and you guys are trying to win games. Because, yes, that's the implication, right? If the Dolphins are categorically tanking, which I'm not totally ruling out the possibility that they want to be relevant, because why else would you sign Malik Willis? I understand that they currently have been selling parts, and it doesn't quite look like a team that wants to win football games. Sometimes a team like the Dolphins will start to make a few moves after June 1st, which is the compensatory pick deadline. So once June 1st hits, they can start making signings that won't influence the compensatory pick formula. And that means that, you can more freely do what you need to do to fill out holes. Is there a way that a guy like Keenan Allen and, some like budget options land with the Dolphins just so that they can give Malik Willis a real sense of support for his first year in that system, rather than just sort of like letting him hang out to dry? But if things trend the way that we are currently seeing, which is that the Dolphins are committed to having their cap situation get right this year, even if that means sacrificing some developmental progress from their quarterback, which I think is the current state of the roster, then yeah, it could be sort of a scary situation for the Jets, who would then be sort of picking like in the top 10 picks or top 16 picks next year, but aren't necessarily relevant for the number 1 overall pick. I guess the consolation I will give you is that next year's draft, as I'm sure Jets fans have like much discussed, will likely feature a number of legitimate quarterbacks. And it's hard to make that promise to any fan base. And I actually think the conversation about the 27 draft has gotten sort of out of control, because everyone keeps saying like, these are the 7 quarterbacks that are going to be in the class. Like, we thought a lot of those guys would come out this year, and they didn't. So to think that all of them will be in next year's class is a bit foolish in its own way. It'd be repeating the same mistakes of this year's class. But I do think like Dante Moore is probably coming out, right? I think he might even have to. So,
can't avoid the Jets again, you bastard.
Exactly. So we'll see a mix of guys. Like, if Arch Manning doesn't look consistent, like, he doesn't really have a good reason to come out unless he wants to go to the organization that's picking at number 1, because ultimately he probably will go number 1, even if he isn't necessarily the most. His name brand alone might get him a sort of tiebreaker with another prospect. So to your point, if it's first overall and it's the Jets or the Dolphins, whomever, like, that's probably who would go. So yeah, I think that's all an important consideration is, are the Dolphins going to be, a 2-win team or 3-win team? And are the Jets trying to get into 6 to 10 win territory? I don't know. We'll see.
Because we're swimming outside of the Jets for a second, I think this is important for Jet fans, because there's been a lot of Jet fans that are sort of confused with some of the roster moves, because they say, fans are saying we need to tank. We need to get up there to have one of those top picks. So, like, come on, Aaron Glenn, roll over and die so we can, like, just lose. But, like, the moves would indicate they're trying to win, which makes sense. AG is trying to do job self-preservation there. But there's a world where the Jets can have their cake and eat it too, because it's not just their first-round pick. They have 3 first-round picks next year. There's a world where the Jets could overachieve and do some nice things for AG, and one of those other teams stink, and they have the first-round pick that delivers the quarterback potentially. So I wanted to ask you about that. The Jets have 3 first-round picks next year, their own, the Indianapolis Colts, and then whichever, great job by Muji, by the way, whichever is the better pick between the Dallas Cowboys and the Green Bay Packers. So if the Cowboys pick 8th and the Packers pick 10th, the Jets get that 8th overall pick as virtue of the trade negotiation. But I need your honesty, which you're not afraid to give, Henry McKenna. Okay, so these 3 teams, I'm curious what you believe they can be. Again, there's still the draft. There's some latter stage of free agency and trade, I guess, that could change some things for these teams. But everything you know right now here on March 24th, do you believe the Colts are going to be good? Do you believe the Cowboys are going to be good? Do you believe the Packers are going to be good? Because if any of those implode, that's good news for the Jets.
One of my favorite ones of I have a few favorite assets as far as the Jets go. I love Garrett Wilson. Like I just love him. But maybe behind him, it's that Colts pick. I think the Colts could be an absolute disaster this year. We saw them going off the rails even before Daniel Jones suffered his injury. Speaking of moves that smack of desperation, the entire Colts offseason has looked like an absolute makeup session. Like they're just doing everything they can to look like they know what they're doing. And I don't see a clear plan I don't see a coherent plan for 26 and 27. I see them committing big money to Daniel Jones in 26. And he's a guy that's coming off not just an Achilles injury, but a broken lower leg, right? So we're talking about two major injuries to a quarterback's lower body. That's the kind of stuff that doesn't take 1 year to recover. It takes 2 years to recover. So for them to make a long-term commitment to a guy that is almost definitely going to regress and a guy that didn't have a lot of room for regression in his game in 2026, I don't know what they think is going to happen next year, except for them lose a lot of games. And they've committed a lot of money now to this vision from Ballard and Steichen that, again, I don't think if we're looking at the future and if it goes sort of like I see where the quarterback situation ends up negatively impacting 26, I don't think they're going to make it to 27. And so then what happens? You guys know, unfortunately, as well as anyone, what happens when a desperate organization starts to they try to push too many chips onto the table and the risk ends up burning them for the next organization having to foot the bill. So I think that the Colts are in a really bad spot. I think that could be obviously to the Jets' advantage, where ultimately the Colts are putting in too much money in the wrong places and almost like the Alec Pierce deal, almost like kind of patting themselves on the back for a thing that really shouldn't, like that deal. They should have let someone else pay Alec Pierce that kind of money. I get that he's a special field stretcher. He's not the reset the market kind of receiver. Let someone else make that mistake. So Colts look like a real mess to me. And so I think that's a real opportunity for the Jets to have a nice pick up at the top of the draft alongside potentially their own.
we gotta bring you on every episode, man, because this is truth. I can't be the only one speaking facts right now, and I completely agree. Shout out to my guy Robert Saleh. I think the Titans are gonna leapfrog the Colts, and have a solid season to help the Colts reach that trajectory that you're on. But speaking about trajectory and what can be happening, we talked a lot about the QBs of next year. But before we get to next year, we got this year. Ty Simpson, now all of a sudden there's people out there talking about he's better than Mendoza. Like people are saying this on national television.
Name names, Wudi. Name names. We know exactly.
Okay. All right. Dave Orlovsky. All right. I think he was sober when he made the point. I can't speak to that for sure, but I believe so. And that's what he said. So my question is clear, and you were there. You were at the combine, right? So just what are the whispers that you're hearing? Do you think Ty Simpson is a franchise QB, and B, who do you think is going to be the team that ultimately pulls that trigger on this, polarizing name?
So from a draft stock standpoint, not from like a proper comparison, but from a draft stock standpoint, because the draft is all about narratives and it's all about momentum. And so, I think we can break down Simpson's game, but I think we can also study history of the draft and see patterns that emerge, right? So the most obvious one is Jackson Dart from last year, a guy that teams were not totally enamored with prior to the combine. However, enough teams, like 2 basically, became enamored with him during the combine process. He began to answer some of the questions that surrounded him. Specifically for Dart, it was that he didn't have a pro style understanding of the game because of that offense that Lane Kiffin ran, ran in at Ole Miss. So with Dart, he got enough coaches interested in him, and that sent his draft stock up significantly because quarterback is such a binary in the league. It's like, can he be the guy or can he not be the guy? Like, that's it. And if he can be, he's a first rounder because you want that 5th-year option to stretch out the budget that happens on that rookie contract. And so I think something similar could emerge with Ty Simpson. Now, I'm not in the camp that believes that he's QB1, but I do think that Dan staking his claim in that concept, that idea, which I'm sure Dan genuinely believes, but to really push that idea, I think it creates a positive. Well, actually, I would say the conversation is mostly toxic right now. But what I will say is that Ty Simpson is closer to Mendoza than most people are willing to admit. That doesn't mean that Mendoza isn't QB1 and that Ty Simpson isn't QB2. And then the other part of the conversation is that these guys are such 2 prospects who are sort of head and shoulders above that 3rd tier. Like, because it's such I think like it might even be that there's kind of like no 3rd tier of this quarterback prospect class, and that it really drops from tier 1 Mendoza, tier 2 Ty Simpson, like blank tier 3, and then tier 4 where there's a big group of names. So that complicates the matter, right? Where ultimately you want to try and figure out how to equate value with these guys, and it's hard. So what will happen to Ty Simpson and who might be interested? I think if a team like the Cardinals, who really doesn't have a quarterback, respect to Jacoby Brissett, he could easily start for 17 games. And it would be with the 2027 draft in mind. That would be why they make that decision. But if Mike LaFleur, your former offensive coordinator,
shout out, some real love.
I'm not gonna lie, I sometimes mix up him and Matt's names. But if Mike LaFleur finds that he really likes Ty Simpson, they're a nice match in terms of skill and concept in general. Because if Ty Simpson is kind of like Brock Purdy and LaFleur kind of runs the Shanahan system, then that makes sense, right? So there's that sort of like coaching tree QB comp natural match. Other teams that have been tossed out are the Steelers, who might want to put Simpson behind Rodgers when he inevitably comes out of his darkness retreat.
Of course.
4.0 or whatever we're at this point. And the other teams we've seen get tossed around. I mean, I think people have even mentioned the Jets and Miami as potential.
They have 100%. They have. I've heard it. Yeah. I
just don't think, again, I am confused about the quarterback decisions and timeline that the Dolphins think they're on, but I think the Jets would be under some great illusion if they thought that they should be the ones who develop Ty Simpson. The other name that I heard was the Rams. The Rams are a team that they got to start planning for Matt Stafford. And, if the Ty Simpson hype does not materialize, then maybe at the back end of round 2 or the middle of round 2, maybe the Rams could move up a little bit. They could potentially pick him as a developmental guy on sort of a flyer And then you see, you vet him in-house until Matthew Stafford wants to retire. And then you make the decision whether to draft a new guy or whether to stick with Simpson. Whether Simpson has too many of the same limitations as Goff, which was a guy that McVay moved off of, because like the comp for Mendoza is Goff, right? So if Ty Simpson is the QB2 and he's a sort of lesser than Goff, why necessarily would McVay want to develop that guy? Right. So it's an interesting prospect to try and find a match. And ultimately, if someone does get sort of high on him, we will probably see that team trade into the back of round 1 to try and make him their starter. But I'm not buying it. I don't really think, like, he's little. His second half of the season, like, I know he had injury issues, but his play really fell apart. There's just not a lot of consistency. There's not a lot of tape. He's a guy that really needs to be drafted and developed, and that's the type of player who should go on day 2. And so if you're kind of going for him on day 1, you're probably operating a little recklessly.
Henry, here's my last one for you. And apparently I'm going to ask you about your favorite thing, Garrett Wilson. So, okay. I'm curious where you believe Garrett. I know, this can be a question that can be very long, but I don't mean it in that way. That where do you consider Garrett Wilson among the top receivers in football? Because on Jeremy Fowler's list last year, we talked to scouts, coaches, league executives. They just squeaked Garrett in at 10. And Jet fans like, yeah, great to see. But a lot of other people are like, Garrett Wilson, who the hell is that? So, like, he doesn't have a lot of respect, it seems, around the league from just perception anyway. And now we see this JSN deal come in, and now Garrett Wilson's the 6th highest paid receiver. Puka Nacua is going to get paid this offseason. That's going to make Garrett 7. And it sounds like he's destined to sort of keep falling down this list. I'm just sort of curious because Garrett Wilson obviously hasn't had any good quarterbacks consistently anyway. He has caught passes from 9 different quarterbacks, and Geno Smith is set to be his 10th this year in his first 4 years, first 5 years, what it will be in his career. Garrett Wilson, where does he rank among the best receivers in football? Henry McKenna.
Yeah. Okay. I would say he had a legitimate place on that top 10 list when they did the ranking. I remember that and being like, heck yeah, I feel vindicated. I feel seen. But unfortunately, obviously, after this year,
of course,
I can't put him in the top 10. But I like him in the top 15 without a doubt. I mean, it's so hard because when you rank a guy who's been held back by his quarterback and sometimes his system at the same time, like, how do you evaluate someone who, like, is empirically excellent at what he does, who has incredible separation, who's so good after the catch? Like, he has the total package. We've seen it. We've not seen someone unlock it. And that's the difficulty with Garrett Wilson that you don't see with as many of the top receivers around the league. But it's one that, for example, Jalen Waddle, who was as productive as anyone when Tua and McDaniel were sort of in their bag a few years ago. But then his production really diminished upon those two guys declining. So, but that, like, what we saw happen to Waddle is what Garrett Wilson is dealing with every year. So to see Wilson put up production when we're seeing other guys deal with such dramatic fluctuation, that's why I really sort of support him as one of the top prospects, or excuse me, one of the top receivers in the league. I think top 15 without a doubt. It's even with my affinity for him, I think right now they're just, from a production standpoint, there are 10 guys that are better than him.
100%. It's a well said, Henry McKenna, and I agree. He's got to, we got to see it, whether it'll be quarterback or him. Henry, I know we're running out of time, so I just want to thank you so much for joining us on the program. You're a Wudi favorite and my favorite coming on this show, so I'm glad we're able to make it happen. You're a very busy man, so appreciate you taking the time.
All right. Appreciate you guys. Take care.
Till next time.
McKenna, for sure. Wudi, let's just put a bow on this puppy for the show, and shout out to Henry McKenna, again, NFL reporter for Fox Sports. Again, when I knew Henry back in the day, he covered just the Patriots. He was a Patriots beat reporter. Not that there's anything wrong with that, although there is. But, he was just covering one team. And then his responsibilities increased when he got to Fox Sports. He covered the entire AFC East. And now, obviously, the ultimate prize of covering the entire National Football League, which is a dream job for so many people. On that Garrett Wilson nugget, to me, if we're being honest, Garrett Wilson, and I explained it in the chat, but I want to just reiterate this, on the Jeremy Fowler list of top 10 receivers in football, where he talked to a panel of 50 scouts, coaches, league execs. That is not a projection list. That is a right now, in that moment, last offseason, the league said that Garrett Wilson was the 10th best receiver in football. So again, no projection, no nothing. That's how the list is constructed. They explain the rules at the beginning before they get into the list. And after the season Garrett Wilson had, where he missed the first games of his career, was 10 games missed of his career, I agree with Henry. I'd put him top 15. He's got to earn his way up. But I think the reason why he's not higher on the list for Jet fans that may have been angry with that, he's never had more than 1,200 receiving yards in a season. He's never had double-digit touchdowns. The best receivers in football do both of those things all the time, and he's never done it once. And you could say, is that Garrett Wilson's not as good as people think, or it's because his quarterbacks suck? You can make a strong argument his quarterbacks stink. So we need to see if that can happen to sort of put a bow on that. But I love that Henry loves Garrett Wilson, G5. He should. Garrett Wilson's awesome.
Yeah, he's definitely awesome. I'm still not gonna put him in Jetta's or like Jamar territory.
Yeah.
I can't do that in good faith. Like
Fair. But you have him in the same Henry range, top 15?
Oh, yeah, for sure, yeah. And
I'm making sure.
He is somebody who, you get the right dude in here, Arts or whatever the right dude, Lador Sellers, my guy. Yeah. And he could be looking like top 5, like for real. Like I think that's his ceiling. Like I don't think he will ever be like Jetta's territory, where like I would say the consensus is like Jetta's or Jamar is like the number one. And I know JSN is now getting, top pay, and, Seahawks fans are going to say, he's number one, but, you look at the comments, on those, things, and there's some JSN slander there. So I think, I don't think he will enter that, but if, we get the right guy in here to stabilize the quarterback play, then I think that's where his ceiling is like top 5, like AJ Brown, like what AJ Brown has been for the Eagles, which is a fantastic elite receiver. And then his floor, I feel like was what we've already seen with the terrible QB. So it's a great spot to be if you're Garrett. I think another thing that will help, which we're definitely going to be talking about in between now and the draft, is who is that man on the other side? Are we talking about A.D. Mitchell? Are we talking about Mekhi Lemon? Are we talking about, Jordan Tyson? Are we talking about Brian Thomas Jr.? I don't think we're talking about that, too much anymore. But, having help is going to help open things up for him. And that is something that he has not had arguably any – obviously the Devontae games, he had that. But, every other game, he didn't really have that. So I appreciate Henry coming on. And I think it's really important because, we are in a Jet-centric world. We're talking to Jets fans. We only talking Jets, all Jets. But to have somebody who has the big picture perspective, somebody who knows what's going on around the whole league, to kind of snap us back in reality and tell us the truths that I try to tell you guys every week, and you call me a hater. So to bring in somebody who, comes in and, pretty much just says what I've been saying word for word is a nice, refreshing feeling to have somebody come in and also echo that truth.
I was going to go to the grave with this, but after what you just said, I was not going to say anything. And I want to explain this to people too when we have a guest on the show and people like don't understand. Like, for me and Wudi, and when I'm doing an interview solo, like depending on the allotment of time that's available, and if a guest on our show says something that I'm like, there's no way I agree with that. But I'm not going to take up our entire time of arguing with someone about their point. If they have a point, that's their point to make. We brought them on the show for their level of expertise. But since you just opened the door, I would say one flag.
You said we was going to wrap it up with a bow. That's all I was doing, was wrapping it up with the bow. I don't know if I opened the door.
You wrapped it up with a bow and gave a little like, hey, I got a present for you. And I'm like, oh, what's in it? And then you just go, boop. That's what's in it. I'm like, whoa. And it's this. Henry McKenna, again, he is allowed to have his opinion, and I'm allowed to disagree with it. His opinion that he's like, oh, a couple of these free agent moves by the Jets reeked of desperation. And I'm like, I just don't see it. There was no Tyler Linderbaum. There was no Alec Pierce. There was no like, oh my goodness, Aaron Glenn is clearly throwing a life raft and doing anything to save his job with some crazy ass, desperate, over the top deal. I just didn't sense it. Did they pay a few shekels for a David Onyemata that people are like, who's that guy? If you don't know ball, or Demario Davis, did you pay a little bit more for a 37-year-old than maybe some people had on the bingo card? Yeah, maybe, but reeks of desperation. Quite frankly, that felt like an over the top. Dramata, however you pronounce that word, dramatization, of the events occurred. Yeah. See, you watch a Netflix show and at the beginning, these events have been dramatized for some extra juice. Yeah. I should have given that warning after that. Cause come on, reeks of desperation. Come on, man.
Yeah. That's what I was, I'm trying to tell you.
What move? Point it. What move reeked of desperation? Please.
You just listed a few, all of them. They just desperate for wins.
Come on. All of them? I'm asking for what? Come on. When you're in a fight with your significant other,
they definitely overpaid.
Like, they overpaid this. And I'm like, name one. Name one, please.
They overpaid old dudes trying to get wins, and I respect it. I respect and that's what he said too. That's what do you mean? You just named Demario Davis. You said, did they?
Demario Davis, fine. That's one. And I was
Minka Fitzpatrick. I was roasted for talking about the deal.
Pick? That's an overpay. A seventh round
pick. Pay. We're talking money. What are you talking about?
$13 million a year.
Yeah, that's
or something.
A lot. That's a lot for an old dog. So
29.
I mean, he's gonna be 32 making that money. That's what I'm talking about.
Oh, come on.
What do you mean?
Why are you talking about contract years in the future? Talk about
God. Let's just pop bottles for these moves. Let's just pop bottles. The greatest moves of all time. The greatest. Oh my God! Won the offseason. Give us a trophy because we won March. What are you talking about right now?
There is a fine line, Wudi. You live in this black and white world. There's gray, man. There's some gray in there. He says reeks of desperation. I say, I don't think there's that many overpays. And Woody goes, oh, look, every move is great. Confetti. Whoa.
When did I turn into Minnie Mouse?
There's in the middle. There is in the friggin' middle. And that's what I'm suggesting. It's not all the way over here. Not all the way over here. How about right here? That's where it is. We're swimming right here. It's nice. It's all right here.
All right, man. Well, we appreciate the love in the comments. Come on now, Take Flight Talk, Boy Green 25, both channels were popping from the get-go, literally from the intro. You guys were in, and I appreciate that. Looking at the James Wudi Instagram right now, there were people popping in. Party with Peg and Artie. Hey, appreciate the love. And I didn't even realize because I was on a different tab. I guess we got the big screen on. Take Flight Talk. Fun fact: next week it's about to be a Take Flight takeover. My guy, who I've been bringing up every single time that this comes up, Michael K. Nope, not that one you're thinking of, but my college running back man's. He will be live and in color next week on Boy Green Meets Wudi. So you'll be able to see that and get a real feel for what Take Flight Talk is all about. we got the coverage, we got the content, we out here doing our thing and giving you honest analysis, just like how Henry was honest with us right now. And I know it's tough to swallow. Honesty is a tough pill to swallow, and that's why Boy Green looks like he needs to take a poopy right now. But you know what? Down the hatch, baby. Down the hatch. Get some water. Drink it down. Drink it down. You know what I'm saying? Drink down that honesty. We are an honest channel over at TFT, and we're rooting for our boys.
I do want to thank Henry Kenner for joining us on the show. He'll never join us on the show again. No, I'm just kidding. It was great to have him on the program. It's great to get guests. We used to always do third party Thursdays. Now it's more selective, and hopefully you guys appreciate when it randomly pops up. You guys didn't know, and all of a sudden, whoa, NFL reporter for Fox Sports, Henry McKenna jumping on. So we'll try to do that sporadically throughout the offseason, including Wudi. I don't know if we're ready to tease it officially on the show, but it's not next week. I believe it is next week, isn't it? Right? Or no. The week after.
Yeah. I just said my guy Michael K is joining next week. This is a Michael K week next week.
No. I'm talking about this show.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Not Mike. Oh, yes. I'm a
yes. So then the week after that, yes.
Is please, yes, go ahead.
Oh, is our God? Oh my God! Literally,
we haven't talked about it on the show yet. I don't think so.
I think we have.
We have.
But,
okay.
I mean, I'll talk about it all night long. You know what I'm talking about? I'll talk about it. Our guy, Ryan Roberts. He is the walking Wikipedia, encyclopedia, Pediapedia-like Pediasure. He is everything that you need. All of the knowledge, all of the wisdom, all of the nuggets from everyone at the top of the list, all the way down to the undrafted names that, I don't think you're going to know anything about him. Oh, this dude who in 12th grade was playing the trombone. Like, this is Ryan Roberts. This is his specialty. This is what God put him on earth to do, is to know everything there is to know about the prospects. There is no one I would rather discuss these prospects with, and he will be on the show not once, but twice. A full episode for offense and a full episode for defense. So I apologize if you're a special teams enthusiast. We got offense and defense, baby, and it's about to be a grand old time.
Yeah, sorry for the kickers, punters, long snappers, gunners. Well, we already got that on lock with Chris Banjo, so we don't need it. The episode. So lucky for another team that requires it. But anywho, Wudi, fabulous show, a lot of fun. We'll have a lot of stuff coming. Obviously, we're going to be running out of time before the draft. It's less than a month away. It was a month away from yesterday, so count the math on our shows that are going to be left. So we got a lot of work to do before we get to the draft, my friend.
Absolutely, we do. I can't wait. It's so exciting to kind of just sift through everything, sift through the projects, prospects, sorry. And, I know you got to watch that movie Draft Day about, 10 to 25 times. Yeah. But, CBW, let them know I'm unbiased. Straight shooter. You know what I'm talking about? Like, it is what it is. So CBW, appreciate you. And that's everybody you should know. Keep it real.
Yes, thank you to everyone who joined the chat. Also, a salute to a recent new member. I know you're going to love him because he has Knicks representation. Paige from Harlem says, I finally got to catch your live stream. Yes, for those who don't know, Boy Green Meets Woody's every Tuesday and Thursday at 3 o'clock live, an afternoon show. And obviously, I do the morning show every day. That's 7:30 a.m. Eastern time. I will be at the draft, so me and Wudi will call a few audibles at the line of scrimmage. My Syracuse Mets baseball season starts on Friday, so that will occasionally cause some disruptions, as Wudi just explained how he's going to be holding down the fort. I'll be available in the comment section, but I'll be doing some baseball action as one of my many million jobs that I have. So that's going to be a lot of fun. So stay tuned for that. So yes, for people that are new to the channel, afternoon shows Tuesdays and Thursdays at 3 o'clock, which are a lot of fun. And so it's going to be a good time.
Yes, absolutely. A great time. Welcome, Paige from Harlem. I apologize if trying to drink it down not working. Don't worry, I got a lot of nice things to say about the Knicks. All right, we going for gold, baby. We go for gold. It's a deep team. It's a D2.
Yeah. We'll double check that in a couple weeks. Anywho, thanks everybody for tuning in. If you could do me a favor and Wudi a favor, the free way to contribute on the way out is like the video here on YouTube, hit subscribe. My channel just recently reached over 8,500 subscribers, which is tremendous. So shout out to everyone in the audience. But we're trying to get Wudi over 500. Let's see if we can do it. We just did it for Jets Worldwide a week or two ago. We helped them push over the top. So thank you to the beautiful Jets community for helping do that. Let's have another success story. Let's do the same thing for James Gash Darn Wudi. So show your support, folks. Again, at Take Flight Talk is his YouTube channel of choice if you're watching on any other platform. Wudi, looking forward to doing this again on Thursday, my friend.
Absolutely greatest 3 p.m. show of all time. And it's not just me saying it. All right. Those are words that I've read. All right. More
Sports
than
Illustrated, Bleacher Report. I've heard it.
Yes, absolutely. So you do not want to miss it on Thursday.
That's for sure. Thanks, everybody. And we'll see you next time. Take